Welcome to Scoop One Owner. Happy Monday. It is Michigan Sanction Monday. They were notified by the Big Ten of their pending disciplinary action. This is going to get really good, really quick. I think that the more that comes out, the better this is for the rest of the Big Ten and for the Buckeyes. So we're going to break all that down today. We're going to get into it pretty quick here today. As always, we appreciate you guys. We never start an episode without saying thank you to all of you guys tuning in, watching, and we appreciate you guys so much. If you enjoy this content, leave us a like, click subscribe, also click the little alert bell. You'll get an alert every single time we go live a little early tonight with Monday Night Football. So we try to make it so that we lead right into it and you guys can have a nice segue. We appreciate you guys. Shout out where you guys are watching from. And give me your prediction. What are the sanctions going to be? Because I think it's going to be real interesting. Again, I think it's getting really, really hot up in Schembechler Harm, the kind of thumb of their nose right now. And I don't think that ends well when you do that. With that being said, I'm going to bring in my good friend Nevada Buck. Nevada is Monday. The Big Ten notified Michigan of their disciplinary action. This is something that we don't see very often in football, but here we are. It's been a very embarrassing stretch for the Big Ten, and I think the commissioner has got some action on his hands. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I mean this one is absolutely in the realm of the lawyers. I was under the impression that the sanctions would come down Monday. With the key word in this whole thing has been reasonable, and the Big Ten bylaws call for the commissioner to inform the member institution of pending disciplinary action and give them a reasonable time to respond. And reasonable is up for interpretation. To some people that's 24 hours, 48 hours. You could be talking about one day, 3 days, one business day, 3 business days, et cetera, et cetera. So I think this is kind of stretched out. I think we're looking at probably Wednesday now. But again, timing these things is always it's hard enough to be right. And I feel like we've been right on about 99% of the story, but you don't want to get the timing wrong. But I think Wednesday's probably a pretty good bet in terms of with what's been happening. Maybe Thursday on the outside, but it's not going to stretch on beyond that. They're in the notice phase. Michigan's been given notice of the intent to sanction. They are in the response period right now. Tony Petitti really wants to do this correctly. He has to do it by the law. People talking all about Michigan's, Michigan will file a temporary restraining order and they'll do this. I mean, when you join the Big Ten, you give up your right to do it. You hand over the rights for disciplinary action to the commission. I mean, it's spelled out in the bylaws contractually. So you can't just, well, I don't like this one, and because I don't like this one, now I'm going to go out and get a temporary restraining order. Now I'm going to go out there and fight. It doesn't work that way. So I think people are reading this thing wrong in terms of Michigan's options in this are really limited, and I don't think they're going to fight quite the way people think they are. I think a lot of this is positioning. I think a lot of this is posturing. You see how insanely stupid their fan base is. Their fan base was all in a flutter this entire weekend over this breaking news that was going to come out. And first of all, the ties to for the NCAA to come out and specifically say, hey, Ryan Day's family didn't have anything to do with that. That's embarrassing. I mean, first of all, I'm a little mad at Zach, who I love to death, for even bringing that up, because I mean, I know it was a troll and I know it was funny and I know it was this, but it's like, you have to realize you're dealing with crazy people that will latch on to anything. And apparently there have been threats against Dave's family and everything else. And I'm telling you, as an Ohio State fan, I wouldn't go to Ann Arbor. There is no way in heck that I would go to Ann Arbor because I think their fans are so stupid and so insane and so crazy that I think every outcome is possibly on the table there if you went out there and did that. And that's not the way college football should be. I mean, I think their actions, I think the actions of their administration, I think the actions are absolutely an embarrassment. They are a stain to college football, and I've always disliked them. But now I'm disgusted by them. I'm absolutely disgusted by their program. I'm disgusted by their hypocrisy. I'm disgusted by their actions. I'm disgusted by their trying to justify it, but in this stupid bombshell that they came out with today. Oh, a former unnamed staffer said that there were signals of Michigan. Dummies. It's not illegal to have the signals. It's how you procured them that's illegal, okay? You can't have Connor Stallions dressed as a Central Michigan coach wearing spy glasses at the Michigan State game. That doesn't fly, okay? What happened to all your guys' passionate defenses about, oh, Connor was so smart. He hired third parties. And, oh, no, that wasn't Connor Stallions. We still haven't heard from Central Michigan to this moment publicly about who that was. What does that tell you, guys? Does that tell you that it was Connor Stallions, or does that tell you that it wasn't Connor Stallions? Well, if you're really dumb, then you might think, well, I don't know. I'm not sure what it means. Well, if it wasn't Connor Stallions, that would have been identified in about 7 seconds, guys. It's been 7 full days. And the information that we have is they've informed the Big Ten and the NCAA and everybody formally that, yes, indeed, it was Connor Stallions on the sidelines, as if we didn't know that already. But I again, long diatribe, but I'm fired up. Nevada Buck is fired up today because I'm disgusted by Michigan. I mean, it used to be, this was a hard hitting, but clean rivalry game, and I always, you always have some like a healthy respect to them. Man, I have no respect to them now. Absolutely zero respect for the program. I hope that program falls into a steaming crater into the center of the earth. It couldn't happen fast enough for me.
Yeah, I mean, I got your beloved Stallions video on right now where he's looking at the ground, and the guy. It's funny, like I've never seen this on a sideline where a guy's running full steam ahead and he jumps the bench and lands up on the thing, and everyone's looking at the guy again because is he going to be okay? Is he going to get hurt? Is he going to blow his knee out on the bench? Whatever, and he jumps all the way up here, and everyone's looking at him as he comes off, like right here. They see him jump up on the thing. And then there's one guy who's like looking down at the ground like he dropped his contact lens, and he's pulling the best is the hat pull down here, because he grew up being like a football nerd, pulling the hat down over his face because he knows that the cameras, he's right in the big frame right here, so he's looking down. It's so bad. But I just think that as this thing goes on, I don't know. I think, again, the thing that Michigan's trying to hang on to is, what is their best circumstance going forward? Is it take the discipline, extend Harbaugh, know that it's going to end at some point, and then Harbaugh's still the coach? Or is it wax everybody? Are they going to be forced to wax everybody? I don't know. Because, again, this is one of those situations. I'm going to ask you this. We actually got a super chat. If you guys have super chats, automatically answered. If you have a question that is burning, dying to know the answer to, it's just like touch tunes when you go out. If you hit do the super chat, auto answer. So Tony Turlett, appreciate you. Licensed attorney here. All right, this is good. We got a smart audience. One element of a temporary restraining order is likely to prevail on the merits. Big Ten bylaws leave no chance for that, so a motion for a temporary restraining order will fail quickly. Thank you, Tony. I appreciate you, my man. Fantastic insight. Again, I've seen temporary restraining. I mean, we've been a part of legal stuff. We're not going to talk about it, but it's just like, and they've been shot down because there was no merit. We prevailed on that. So again, sometimes you deal with people that are lunatics and they end up losing anyways, and they try to do stuff like that, and it gets shot down immediately because they're not going to win. So Nevada, do you think the temporary restraining order will be denied? If the Big Ten imposes sanctions, suspensions on Michigan, and then they try to reverse it with a temporary restraining order, do you think that will hold, or do you think that will deny it? Again, I know you're not an attorney. We just got some fantastic insight by one of our great subscribers. Appreciate that so much. But what are your thoughts on that?
Well, again, I don't want to take this too far afield in terms of judicial activism and everything else like that. But you have to remember, a lot of judges are elected positions. And so for them to bring it to a friendly judge somewhere up there in Ann Arbor who wants to curry favor with the nut jobs, and he grants the TRO, could I see that? Yeah, I just don't know what the procedure. I don't know what the procedure is to go above that or to appeal that or whatever that is. But I think in today's days and times, I think you can get a judge to sign off on just about anything. But I completely agree with the poster. Are they likely to prevail on the merits? Not. They have no chance to prevail on the merits. No chance. Mm-hmm. The bylaws are very specific. If the bylaws weren't very specific, it would just be the Wild West. Teams would just do whatever the heck they wanted, whenever they wanted, with no concerns. But that's when you join a conference and you get all the accoutrement that comes with being part of a conference. There are certain rights that you sign away, and one of those is the discipline. And we've seen it in the NFL, we've seen it in other leagues, we see it, and it's like owners may not like it, they may not be happy. I mean, you had an owner in the NBA that was forced to sell his team. We've had multiple owners that have been forced to sell their team.
Sterling, the guy from the Suns, the guy from Daniel Snyder. I mean, yeah.
I mean, you're talking about NFL owner. I mean, you don't get any bigger than an NFL owner. And he was forced to sell because the commissioner came down on him, and they voted. And like, look, if it was just as easy as, I'll just go get a temporary restraining order and you can't get me, commissioner, you don't think that Daniel Snyder would have done that? Or you don't think that Donald Sterling, who was so litigious, I mean, that guy would have sued anybody. You don't think he would have done that? So I don't think they're likely to prevail. I mean, I know they're not likely to prevail, but can they get it? How long will that hold up? I mean, they're definitely trying to run out the clock. They're trying to play it out. But what you wonder is, if they do that, what else can Tony do to them? And that's the question. And I don't have a full answer on that, but I can tell you that when you thumb your nose at an organization like that, you say, hey, we're not going to, there's lots of different ways they can get you, 9 ways to Tuesday. And then and let's not even talk about the fact that this is absolutely a lack of institutional control case for the NCAA going forward. They've already got a pending investigation going on Harbaugh lying and deceiving the NCAA. Now, this is classic lack of institutional control. I mean, I know for Michigan fans, they feel like this is their one shining moment, and anything that happens in the future doesn't matter. And so, but man, at some point, you got to pay the bill, guys. At some point, you can sit there in the club and drink all that wine and drink all that champagne and throw that right on all those tips. But at some point, the bill comes due and the party stops. And Michigan, let me tell you, the party's stopping, and soon.
The lights are turning up and they're sweeping the confetti off the floor, and that tab shows up and you're like, oh my God, this is not good. Super chat from TK, my man, as a former college player. What will be the impact of not having your head coach for 3 games in November? Truss said November is for contenders. Truss is maybe the greatest example of this ever, just because, in 2010, when I was on staff, we went, I think we were 12-1, or we lost to Wisconsin, and then we ran the table the rest of the season, whooped Michigan, beat Arkansas in the Sugar Bowl. We lose Truss. He gets whacked on Memorial Day. And then, we basically have the same staff. Now, obviously, the other huge piece is we lost Terrell Pryor, who's, was the Heisman front runner, one of the greatest players in Ohio State history, a guy that literally carried us on his back all through 2010. But losing Truss was absolutely devastating. We still had the whole staff. We had everybody else. And we added Mike Vrabel. So we subbed out Vrabel, who's NFL Coach of the Year for Truss. It was his first year coaching. He coached the linebackers for us, took Fick's spot. But not having your leader, the guy who's been a head coach, who's won national championships, the guy that basically is the reason why everybody's there. Because that's the thing, is like when you get hired as the head coach, everybody else in that entire building is there because of you. Every recruit, every coach, every assistant, janitor, whatever. They're usually, everyone's been hired by you or recruited by you after you've been there for 4 years. Like, they're all your people. So when the big dog's gone, it's very difficult. Like, losing Jim Harbaugh would be absolutely devastating in critical games. Now, they can beat UNLV and they can beat, Alabama A&M and whoever else they played to open the season when they had Mike Hart as the head coach and Shawn Moore and all those other idiots as head coaches. But when you lose Jim Harbaugh in November, and then you got to face off against, because again, at the end, you're playing the end game boss, the final boss of the game. You're playing Ryan Day, who's, he's the guy that they know they have to get through Ryan Day to win the Big Ten championship. They don't beat Ohio State, they don't win the Big Ten. All their goals go up in smoke. So I think it'd be devastating. Nevada, obviously, the importance of a head coach. Again, when Luke was not retained as the head coach in 2012, we bring in Urban and magically we go 12-0. I think that, I think coaching really, 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 really matters in college. I think it's the the silver bullet, so to speak. I think in the NFL, coaching is important, but I think if you get great players, it makes you look like a great coach. Like you look at Bill Belichick's the greatest coach of all time, and the Patriots are terrible because they no longer have Tom Brady. They don't have elite quarterback play. But your thoughts on that question? What would it mean if they lost Jim Harbaugh for 2 or 3 games down the stretch?
Well, I think it's all short term versus long term. The long term effect of having Harbaugh gone, if he was out of there, yeah, obviously it's predicated upon who they replace him with, but it has an effect. In the short term, could it rally the troops for them, and could they win one for Jimbo and try to do this? But it's a distraction, and distractions are generally bad for football teams. But losing Harbaugh is bad for them. Losing Connor Stallions is worse. Losing Connor Stallions and his magic, laminated sheets of knowing the plays is way worse than losing Jim Harbaugh. I can assure you of that, because they knew what was coming. They knew what was coming.
Yeah.
They knew what was coming defensively. They knew what was coming offensively, and for them, they became dependent on it. And now that they go out their first game off the sugar high, they come out there and they play Purdue and they don't cover the spread after being like a spread covering machine. And now they're going into Penn State. Penn State line open at 6.5. Now it's down to 4. Yeah, I can tell you that's a pretty significant move right there. Will it mean anything? Now that's just the betting public's perception on things, and it's not Vegas saying anything per se, but it's going to be interesting to watch that game because they've got this sugar high the last 2 years from, hey, we can go into the games knowing that we're going to have a pretty good idea what you're running on offense. We're going to have a pretty good idea what you're running on defense. And that affects everything that you do, and it affects the way you do it. And they're not going to have that anymore, and that's going to be an issue. And I think it's going to loom large on Saturday in Happy Valley.
Well, I think that's the biggest thing is when you get into the sign stealing thing. It's like these guys are like addicted to like heroin. They're like addicted to, ooh, we know it's perfect. It's like having like the inside information on gambling or whatever. It's like when you get it and it's coming and it's hot and you're winning and you're making it so much easier. Your life's so much easier. When the music stops, all of a sudden it's like in Superman 2 when Superman gives up his powers to marry Lois Lane, and then all of a sudden the guy punches him, he's bleeding everywhere and stuff. Like he's like, oh my God, I don't have my powers anymore. I have Connor Stallions like with his magical glasses, his meta glasses that can record signals, and he doesn't have his genius Keystone Cop spies that are sitting at the game holding their phones for 6 straight hours like this, getting every signal. So I don't know. It's really interesting because like I just think that once you go down that road and you're so reliant on that, it's kind of like you forget how to coach and you get how to adjust and you forget how to really get great at it. Because if you still rely on cheating the whole time, all of a sudden, when you can't cheat, it's like magically you're not anywhere near what you used to be. It's kind of like when Lance Armstrong got off the juice. All of a sudden he was immortal. He wasn't winning 7 straight Tour de France's or whatever. Got to play. I've been dying to break this one down. This is from the 4th quarter. Again, I know that we've been talking Michigan, but I know you guys love these play breakdowns. But the guy who I think is the most important part of the offense right now is Trey Henderson. Little dig route. Nevada, I mean, how much do you miss this? I know we don't run screen. This is about as close as, this is not a screen, obviously, but this is as close to a screen as I think we're going to get from Ryan Day. You throw it to him, about a little, 10-yard throw. I mean, roughly, from hash to hash. Nice, easy dump. Thankfully the umpire ducks and doesn't, swat the ball down. But Trey gets it. Nice.
Lined up against the linebacker and make that guy cover him. Well, what linebacker in America can cover Trey Henderson? No one. So you just have him go out, run a route, have everybody else clear out. I'd have everybody else run a 5, just go down the field, and have Trey go 1-1 against this guy, throw the ball to him, and let him do his thing. That is absolute stealing. It's not quite as good as running the occasional screen pass. Packers ran a beautiful one, man. They ran one to Musgrave. They ran one to Musgrave where they faked left, they faked the screen left, fake screen right, and then threw it to the tight end Delane down the middle of the field. And it was just like, I watched it and I was just like, oh man, if Ohio State did that, I would just die. But this was the next best thing, which is just have Trey run out there in the middle and just throw him the ball, and they'll let him just run faster than everybody because he's faster than everybody. He's fast. He's the fastest guy in the field every time he sets foot on the field. And let's make offense easy, and he makes it easy mode for sure.
Yeah, and he's running hard, and he's got to make up for the questions in durability, to NFL scouts by just having just overwhelming tape and talent. Because people will be like, well, he missed a little bit with the rib thing in the middle of the season, but once he got rolling and he crushed November, crushed the Big Ten title game, crushed the playoffs, they'll be like, number one guy, easy money. He's that dude. We got another super chat. Appreciate you, Chris. We're going to get into this. Can you predict the post-game handshake from the game for both OSU win and OSU loss? Also, Kirk, chances the players fight. Chances the players fight. I don't think that you'll see a fight just because, maybe the losing team would fight. But, I mean, here's my thing. Fighting isn't worth it in the game because he gets suspended. And if you get suspended for any minute of, if you're, now if you're insignificant and you're a bench player and you hand the starters the water when they come off, then that's fine. But, you don't want to get suspended for the Big Ten championship. Now, the losing team that's going to be playing in some, the Cotton Bowl or whatever, no one's going to care. You could maybe, but I always think fighting is a cop-out after a game just because you just had 60 minutes where you can legally be violent. You can be extraordinarily violent in a game now. And I used to love that because you can do it, and it's the only place in the universe where you can hit somebody as hard as you want and you can't get arrested. It's amazing. Can you predict the post-game handshake for the game for an OSU win and an OSU loss? An OSU win, I think they're both going to be flybys. I'm not trying to cop out, but I don't think Ryan's going to do a big bear hug if he wins and a flyby if he loses. I think that they're both going to be flybys. I think that it's very well known they both hate each other. I mean, Ryan dropped I'll hang 100 on him after Harbaugh, of all people, squealed and said that we were doing illegal drills and we weren't doing them or whatever. And, it's funny because ever since Ryan said he's going to hang 100 on him, we've lost twice. So I don't know. But of course, they were stealing the plays. But your thoughts on that, Nevada? Do you think there's going to be any differentiation in the handshake between Jim Harbaugh and Ryan Day if we win or lose?
No, I think it's going to be. Yeah, I think the Ryan Walters handshake was kind of the model for what we're going to see. I think that's what we'll see with James Franklin. I think that's the lot in life that Harbaugh's got with every coach in the Big Ten right now. Not that he cares, but no one's going to be embracing that guy anytime soon. And I think that's the fact. Now the fighting thing is interesting because. Michigan's going to try to provoke that action. You don't want you got the kind of the Grant Schwartz kind of before the game, run the shoulder into the guy type of thing, and what's that going to be like? I think this game is going to be, it's going to be close enough that stupidity or lack of situational awareness could really swing a game. And you see refs. I mean, you saw Tyleek Williams get called for 15-yard penalty last week on. He got called for that. Okay. Yeah. So when you see that, you realize that the refs are absolutely capable of calling anything, anytime, anyway. And so, Ohio State guys are going to have to be, very controlled and very aware of the situation that they're being put in because it's going to be hostile. And do I think Michigan's going to be dirty? I just think I think they're a dirty team. I think they're a disgusting team. They're disgusting. They are a disgusting. They're led by a disgusting administration and a disgusting head coach and a disgusting fan base. And I think anything is possible when we go up there and play them. And so Ohio State's going to have to be extremely disciplined because I think Ohio State's a better team. I think Ohio State just plays a fair game, a straight up game. I think we'll win, and I'm going to say it right now, it won't be that close. We'll win by 2 scores, but we just got to play a clean game.
Well, and on the fighting thing, I was always paranoid of fighting in a game because I don't want to break my hand because you're usually going to have to punch a helmet. And it's if I break my hand, that means I have to play. Because again, if I break my hand, I can still play with a broken hand. It's going to be harder to grab a jersey and do what I need to do. So. Instead of throwing my fists, I would cut guys. Like when I get mad at guys, I just go cut them. Because cutting is legal. You can go cut. You can go right at their kneecaps, go right at their ACLs, and like I just thought that was a lot better because you're not going to get hurt cutting someone, but you could hurt them. And you also know, like, if you go after a guy's knees, they hate that. There's nothing in the universe that a player values more than their ACLs. And if you go after that, which you legally can do, and I loved to take shots at people's knees, then all of a sudden, like, they don't want to pass rush as hard. They don't want to play as hard. If they want to get mouthy, I'm fine with that because I'll take a shot at you. But that was just how I was. Like I wasn't gonna punch anybody. Again, like that's legal. I mean, I did something that was legal. I'm not gonna get suspended for it. But the Denver Broncos made a gazillion yards running their zone scheme where they cut the backside. So if I had a chance to take a shot on a guy, I did it because mentally those guys are like, if this guy's gonna go at my knee, then I mean he's crazy, and I didn't mind that. Another super chat, William J. Appreciate you, my man. If you have a question, toss that on there. Thank you for the 2. I think this is going to be. This rolls around in my head all day in terms of how big of a Michigan game is this going to be? Because I think that this, for me, it's probably number 2. I'd say. I mean, the 06 game. I mean, they literally had like a countdown clock, a timer, like already going like 3 weeks before the game started because we were playing like Illinois and Northwestern. We were playing like the turd sandwiches of the Big Ten. So we knew that it was going to be undefeated versus they were playing like Ball State and like Indiana. Like they were playing terrible teams leading into our game. So I knew that like that was going to be the biggie. But, we asked this yesterday. Do you think this is top 2, 3? I mean, you've been along a little bit longer. You followed Ohio State longer. But in your lifetime, like what's bigger than this one?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, with all the subplots, you guys had the Bo Schembechler dying on the night of the eve of the game or something like that.
I mean, come on, like,
I was like, come on, Bo, really? You died the night before that? I mean, I took that as a bad omen. I got to be honest with you, as an Ohio State fan, that I took that as a bad omen. I'm like, oh no, you got to be kidding me. That didn't happen the night before the game, but I think given all the subplots, given the potential total destruction of the Michigan program by the NCAA, given the Harbaugh suspension, given the cheating, it's hard to say it's bigger, but it's definitely different. It's definitely different than anything we've been before because this whole scandal is different than anything any of us having to deal with before. So I actually forgive people for not getting this stuff right or not quite understanding it because it's nobody's ever dealt with this before. It's without precedent. Nobody's ever cheated on an industrial scale like Michigan has done. Nobody went out and hired 65, jobbers and bought tickets to hundreds of games. And no, literally, that's what they did. That's literally what they did. Nobody's ever dressed up like an opposing coach and wore spy glasses that he bought at the Sharper Image to the thing to tape the game so he could steal the signal. I mean, like this all. I mean, I'd say it reads like a bad novel, but it's such a black eye for college football. It's such a black eye for the NCAA. It's such a black eye for the Big Ten, and for Michigan. And your brand's dead. Your brand is absolutely dead. You guys will forever be known as the cheaters. You talk about this academic reputation that you guys have built up over the years, and the the Harvard of the West, or whatever the heck that is. You guys are the cheaters. You're the cheating. You are the program that you guys have surpassed Penn State as the most disgusting program in all of college football, and that took some doing. I mean, that took some real doing because Penn State set the bar high, man. They set the bar high, but I think Michigan has surpassed them with just their blatant disregard. I mean, Penn State had a sick guy and a senile coach covering up for the sick guy, but it's this is just. I don't know. It's such a black eye for college football, and like when you played '06 Michigan. I mean, I know you didn't like those guys and everything like that, but were you disgusted by the program back then, or did you just not like them?
No, I literally hated them. This was not like it's not like the guys nowadays, they get together, they pray after the game, and they give each other a big hug and kiss on the cheek and stuff. And like I hated them. Like I literally there was nothing, because again it's kind of like either my kid gets to eat or your kid gets to eat, and my kid's gonna get to eat. It's kind of like the mentality. It's like either my mom gets to be happy or their mom gets to be happy. You can't both be happy after the game. So it's like I mean, it was almost like a sadistic hatred, and it was bad. I mean, it was like it wasn't, and I told my mom, I was like, look, I'm not coming home to Thanksgiving. You're not going to see me at Christmas. I was like, we lose to Michigan. You're not going to see me. I don't know when you'll see me. Maybe in April, but like I'm not going to be around anybody. I don't want to talk to anybody. And thankfully, I never had to deal with that because we won every year. But that was a rare thing back in the olden days. It was, we were coming off the '90s where we got housed, and I saw great Ohio State teams go up there and die. I saw my heroes go up there and die, like Orlando Pace and Eddie George and guys that I like worshipped. And those guys, I was like, there's no, they bring these teams up there. I was like, there's no way they can lose to Michigan. And sure as could be, they get housed. And, so, I mean, you never take it lightly. You never take it easy. You expect anything. I think that's something that like Urban and his staff learned in 2013 when, we had a vastly superior team. And we went up there and we won like 39-38 or something crazy, where Tyvus picked off a 2-pointer, or they could have tied it or beat us or whatever. It was insane. So you never take the game lightly. And that was like the thing, like, I played in 2004. We were 14-point underdogs at home, because we sucked, but then they finally put Troy Smith in, so we actually had a good quarterback, and then magically, we won, and Troy just absolutely carried us on his back that game. And we had guys, the skill guys. The thing about Michigan in the Michigan game, the skill guys have to play humongous, because the lines are always going to be good on both sides, but the team with the better skill guys, that's who wins. Because I mean, when you got the running back, like we had San Antonio, we had Troy, we had Teddy, we had Beanie, we had Antonio Pittman. I mean, like when the skill guys dominate on either side, that's, when you go look at this box score last year, that one running back went for 200 yards against us on 5 plays or whatever. But that's what you got to look at. Got a bunch of super chats pouring in. Again, if you guys have super chats, automatically answered. Appreciate all of you guys. Nate Lawson, you are up. Could Michigan be liable for gambling losses or restitution to other teams for altered playoff bowl appearances? I've heard that a lot. I mean, that would be a very sticky lawsuit, obviously. I think it depends on evidence. Nevada, is there any chance you believe that could happen? Thank you again, Nate.
Yeah, the challenge on that is, and the only precedent that I know is the Houston Astros cheating scandal. And I know there was a similar lawsuit brought on that, and I'm pretty sure that one was tossed. So as much sense as that would make, I'm not sure that a court would, give that a lot of latitude. But you never know. But I think in the Houston Astros case, where again cheating affected outcomes, affected bettors, that lawsuit was not allowed to proceed. So I would be skeptical that this one would be able to.
Yeah, I think that'd just be like, it'd be like one of those cash grabs, or like one of those suing, someone suing the Super Bowl because the lights went out when the 49ers and Ravens were playing and it affected the outcome of the game. Or it's like something where it'd be tough to cobble all that together, I think. But I wouldn't be surprised if some attorney somehow took that, if they thought there was a cash grab in it. Tyler, I appreciate you, my man. You're in here every night. Thank you so much for being a great regular on our show. Kirk, this is the biggest game in the rivalry history. I mean, again, if you guys want to say that, I mean, that 06 game was huge, but this is just different because I'm telling you, it's like the entire Big Ten is rooting against Michigan now. So if James Franklin and Penn State go out and they whoop Michigan this week, I mean, there are going to be fruit baskets coming in from 16 other Big Ten schools, including SC and Oregon. I don't even forget 16, 18, 20, whatever, however many teams we got. They're all going to be sending congratulations cards and text messages and thank you, James Franklin, for beating the cheats. And that's just kind of how it is. It's kind of like when a team beats the Houston Astros now. It's like everyone loves them because, oh, you beat the cheaters. So, but I mean, it does go across college football. Again, I'm not arguing it. And again, I played in the 06 game, and it was a 1-2 game, both undefeated. Bo Schembechler died. Winner. And again, back then, that game was to win the Big Ten, and it was to go to the national championship. So there was no Big Ten championship. There was no 2 rounds of playoffs. Like that was like, and again, if we didn't screw the pooch and beat Florida, then that's probably the best team in college football history. But we didn't, so it doesn't matter. But that was The only reason I'd say '06 was bigger is because like it was literally to clinch a shot to win the national title, and and literally in the locker room they handed you the Big Ten championship trophy. So it wasn't, hey, we'll see you in Indy next week to play Purdue or Nebraska or whatever turd sandwich is coming in from the West in of the Big Ten. Like that was kind of the cool thing about back in the day before the championship game. It was like the Ohio State Michigan game like decided the Big Ten multiple times, and that's what was cool about it. But your thoughts on that, Nevada? Is it the biggest ever? I mean, I'm not arguing because I could see it either way.
Yeah, I mean I mean to me it probably but that's probably recency bias. It's certainly the biggest. I mean, I think the '06 game. Let's put it this way: the '06 game was the biggest game in the stadium that has ever been, and maybe this is the biggest road game that's ever been. So maybe it's 1A, but they were both huge, and yeah, this is it's gonna. What's gonna be interesting if Penn State beats Michigan this weekend, then so then Penn State is rooting for Michigan to beat Ohio State when we play them. After all the bad blood and after all the vitriol and everything, they'll all of a sudden the whole Penn State fan base they'll become Michigan fans before the Ohio State game. So it's fans are fickle, and so these alliances, this closeness that we feel with these other fan bases, it's only going to last as long as it's convenient for them, because once they have an opportunity to turn on us, they'll turn on us too. So it's Ohio against the world.
Yeah, it's Game of Thrones, baby. All day, every day. As soon as they can take the North or whatever, go beyond the wall, and that's what they're going to do. Coach Rip and Roy, appreciate you, man. Thank you for the 5. Oh, I've been dying for this question. This is a great one. Why do Rich Eisen, who's a complete moron, and Desmond Howard, who's the dumbest human being who's ever been on a national network, get to use their national platforms to spread conspiracy crap and try to protect Michigan? Do either lose their jobs? No, I don't think they do, because again, ESPN, they're in bed with the SEC. They love the SEC. They hate Ohio State. They absolutely hate Ohio State. They lost the Big Ten rights. Game day's probably not. I mean, they're not going to be having the national ESPN game in Columbus for the foreseeable future, because CBS and Fox are taking over. And they put up with this stuff from Desmond. Again, CJ Stroud, who one of exceptionally nice kid, exceptionally Christian kid, just a gem of a kid, has to be humiliated by Desmond Howard at the Heisman, and there's no repercussions to it. He takes a pot shot at him, takes pot shots at the O-line. At the Heisman ceremony is supposed to be a celebration of all of the amazing achievements that the 3 or 4 finalists or 5 finalists or whatever have done for the year, and Desmond takes opportunities to take shots at CJ and our team. And no other analyst does that to any other player or any other program except for Desmond with Ohio State. And again, I don't know why ESPN's allowed in the building, but again, our program is just sometimes really stupid about how they do things. They let Taylor Lewan come in, who's the biggest piece of garbage in the universe. They let him come in and interview Ryan Day and Heartline, and I'm like, why would you let a guy who's an absolute piece of trash into the? But again, it is what it is. I don't care. The stupidity runs rampant there sometimes, but I don't think they lose their jobs. But Nevada, what are your thoughts on Rich Eisen and Desmond Howard?
Well, I think Desmond Howard is the stupidest person that's ever been allowed on broadcast television, and I loved him as a Packer fan. Man, he had a great year for the Packers. Was instrumental in us winning that Super Bowl. Some huge returns and made some big plays. And I mean, he's just genuinely unintelligent. And so I almost kind of feel bad for him a little bit when I see him out there. And Rich Eisen is what he is. He's just a Michigan homer. Look, it's like that AP story that broke today. The big reveal, the big smoking gun reveal that some ex-coach said that there was signals that we shared with other coach, whatever that was. You know where that AP writer's from? Guess where that AP writer's from?
Ann Arbor.
He's from Ann Arbor, Michigan. And it's like, I mean, what a joke. I mean, what an embarrassment. It's just like, journalism is absolutely dead in 2023. Don't believe everything that you read on this stuff. You have to wonder where it's coming from. What's the agenda? Rich Eisen has an agenda. Desmond Howard has an agenda. The AP, the Associated Press, this jamoke from Ann Arbor, Michigan, writes this just ridiculous article, and that's supposed to be the smoking gun that people, that's the salvation, and that saved everyone. That's what the Michigan insiders were pimping all weekend, was going to be leave Ohio State in a smoking ash heap on Monday. That was it. That was the story. That was the bomb.
That
That
was
was the nuke.
the big reveal, huh?
That was the big reveal. And so it's just like, at some point, guys, just sit back and enjoy the ride, because it's going to be bad for Michigan. We all know it's going to be bad, and they're just fighting through they're in denial now, and working their way backwards through these stages of grief, and that's just not going to help them, because it's just going to get them in more trouble. But that's where we're at.
Totally agree. Shelby, thank you for the 5. Appreciate you, my man. Hello from Fort Myers. I love Fort Myers. I grew up in Naples, so Fort Myers is a great place. Got a great airport too. Why does it appear McCord is always throwing off his back foot? Lack of confidence. Ankor Drew, your take, please. I think that sometimes he hangs on the ball too long, and the pocket starts to collapse a little bit, and he's not ultra comfortable. So he's kind of like, he like throws like these like fadeaway jump shots, like he's in the NBA. But sometimes I think he just gets the yips. He's not ultra confident. He doesn't have like that incredible pocket awareness that a lot of the bigger, stronger NFL quarterbacks have, where they'll just hang in there forever and step into it and step it, not worry about getting hit. And like, I think he just gets the yips sometimes, but we'll love your thoughts on that, Nevada.
Pocket presence. It's pocket presence. He just does not have a good feel for where he can get comfortable in the pocket. And so unless the guys block it up perfectly, when he gets that big cushion, and then you see him step into those throws and he just guns them, and like he did on that 4th and 17 or whatever it was to Mecca that brought us down to the goal line, or against Notre Dame, and he's made just a bunch of throws like that, but he just doesn't have a natural feel for how to move in the pocket and just make those subtle movements, a couple of feet here, a step up or slide to the right or whatever it is. And so because of that, he ends up off his back foot. His mechanics get a little bit of wonky, but I'm telling you, second half of games, somehow he figures out he's connecting on 71% of his passes in the second half. He hasn't thrown an interception in the second half of a game this year. I think somehow he figures it out as the game goes along. But I think it boils on, if his pocket presence got better, where it was just marginally better, one, it would cut down on the sacks, because a lot of the sacks aren't on the offensive line. They're because those guys are running guys right into where he shouldn't be, and he ends up being there. And secondly, I think his mechanics would get better. So that's something they can work on. Hopefully, he improves. But second half of games, he somehow figures it out.
Yeah, I mean that's the amazing thing is, I think people don't understand that. We do episodes like where we'll go through the sacks and whose fault was it. Like the one I thought Josh Fryer was fine on the one pass pro a couple weeks ago. Everyone was hammering him. I think it was up in Wisconsin. He gave up 2 sacks, but Kyle needs to step up at some point, man. I mean, he starts drifting, and and I tell Troy or Todd Beckman, whoever the quarterbacks, I'm like, look, if you don't stay where you're supposed to stay and you drift out of that, if I give up a sack, it ain't on me. Now it'll be on me on the stat sheet, but if I don't know where you're at, because my back is to the quarterback, like every offensive lineman in the universe. So if he runs somewhere that I don't know where he is and my guy gets him, that's his fault. And again, I'm not blaming the quarterback. That's just like, if I don't know where you're at, then you can't expect me to block and protect you, And so like my senior year, I gave up a single sack in the regular season, give one in the championship game, but the guy was a top 3 pick, but that's fine. But I just think that, when you're in that situation, he's got to start to step up and drill it, and again, he's not young. He's a 3rd-year guy. He's the same age that Troy Smith was. He's the same age as CJ Stroud was last year. And CJ was, Heisman finalist. And, Kyle's going to have a big November coming up. Another super chat, Tyler. Again, I appreciate you, my man. You're a regular. You're the man. Nevada, what do you think the excuses are going to be if we beat them in Ann Arbor? I'll let you take that.
The distraction of the NCAA investigation, the lack of having Harbaugh for the game, the Ohio State cheated and stole our signals, and they had the signals and they knew what they were before. I mean, it'll be endless. It'll be endless. That it'll never be they were better. It'll never be tipping your hat to the opponent. It'll never be, hey, they were just better than we were. It won't be any of those things. It'll be excuse city or maybe the refs. The Big Ten office is against us, and they wanted Ohio State to win, and that's why the refs made all these bad calls. And then there'll be like this, spliced together 10-minute splicing of Ohio State guys holding or missed face mask penalties or whatever it'll be. So I'm going to go with. In fact, I'm going to move refs up. I'm going to move refs up to number one. The number one excuse by the Michigan fan base after we beat them in Ann Arbor is because the Big Ten office paid off the refs. That's final answer.
Do you think that if they suspend Harbaugh, does that affect us at all? Does that matter? Like, do you want Harbaugh to be the head coach? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Personally, I don't care. I mean, being sincere, I just want bad things to happen to the program. I think when you do bad things in life, like they did, that there should be consequences. Nothing bothers me more than people that get away with it. People that do stuff, they do bad things, and there's not repercussions. I think when you do bad things, when you do evil things, when you do stupid things, that somebody, a court of law, a governing body, some sort of something. There's got to be something. You've talked often about the law of the universe, about the negative power and the positive power. There's something that's got to come down on Michigan for all this bad stuff that they've done these past 2 years, and all this happiness they've derived from cheating. There's going to be an equal swing of unhappiness that's going to come from justice, and I believe that. And people might think that's metaphysical BS or whatever that is. But I've seen the world operate too long, man. It just swings like that, and I think for Michigan, I think their time's coming, and it's coming right soon.
I agree. Like, I just think that you have to, again, I don't feel bad because if they get suspended, I'd be like, well, that's what they get for beating us the last 2 years when they were cheating and stealing our signals. So and what they've done to the rest of the league. So, but that's a fantastic question, and I just. They'll have excuses. They always do.
Well, let me ask you that great 06 game. If Michigan had all your signals, could that have affected the outcome in a one-score game like that 06 game? Could you guys have possibly lost? Could you guys have lost that game?
Yeah, like when we're running the ball and they can blitz their two safeties and we don't have enough guys to block them. Yeah, we'd absolutely lose. We wouldn't have a chance. We really wouldn't. I mean, you don't like if I know if I'm an offensive lineman and you can tell me exactly what blitz they're running every single time, we'll never lose. We'll never have a blown protection. Like, and they'll be strung out, guarding Ted Ginn and Santonio Holmes and Gonzo man up, man to man. Like they can't cover those guys man to man. So if they're gonna bring it, I mean, those guys will win, and because we'll pick it all up. Like, that's the thing is, like, if we know what blitz they're running, we can literally call the perfect protection to pick everything up. Or we can call the perfect running play to block everything and split it and go to the crib. Again, we played Notre Dame in 05. Again, we've talked about this ad nauseum. The game clinching run from Antonio Pittman was like a 70-yard run. We knew they were blitzing. We had the tell, and we literally picked it all up. We ran right into the teeth of the blitz, and everybody blocked it. And we worked on that all week because that was like one of the big things they did, just on down and distance, just on good hard film study. We knew that they like to bring that outside linebacker, and they did. We picked it up at the fullback. We full zoned everything else, and then it was curtain call. There was nobody home. So, now we did that because we just studied it, and they had tendencies that were very obvious. This wasn't because we were sending Connor Stallions to go sit in the stands and video signals. Like, we just do it from alignment. So when we picked it up and split it, all of a sudden it's game over. Now, like if we do that, and if we knew that on every play, totally different, but we had it on that. And most teams, they break their tendencies, they change their tendencies. But, if you get a team that doesn't change their signals, that's a whole different ball of wax, man, because that is like stealing, literally. Don Schaefer, thank you for the 10. Keep up the great work. Appreciate you, brother. As always, thank you for being a regular and enjoying Buckeye Scoop. Again, you guys are awesome. Again, this has been an incredible run. We're going to keep it cranking for you guys. Dub V Buckeye, again, appreciate you, my man. Southern West Virginia, take me home, baby. Country roads. I love that. We'll be in Columbus this weekend. Question, will Michigan begin to cooperate with investigators, or their arrogance might depend? Well, I don't think they're going to cooperate, but I think at some point it becomes more conducive to cooperate than it is to just, thumb your nose at it. Because I think that, eventually it's kind of like USC when they got smacked really hard. Like, they shut the doors. They didn't let the investigators in, and they got smacked really, really hard. They took away Reggie's Heisman. They all the sanctions that they had, lost scholarships. It kind of sent them into heck for a few years. But what are your thoughts on that, Nevada? Do you think eventually Michigan cooperates, or do they just shut the door?
Well, I think this is a tale of two cities. You've got some people at Michigan that are cooperating. You've got some people at Michigan that are going to be publicly fighting this. I think it's it's about, you have to remember the genesis of this entire thing. And we've said this on the board a bunch, but for people that are listening, I'm not sure how many of you guys are board members. The entire genesis of this entire thing is the criminal investigation on Weiss, whatever name is, computer.
Mm-hmm.
He was being investigated for cyber crimes. They brought in a cyber unit who opened up his computer. In his computer, they found access to a cloud file that had Ohio State practice film on it. They found gambling cookies, and they found all this video of all these guys, including the pedophile guy, taping other team signals. That was the genesis of this. So all this information that came from an internal University of Michigan police investigation. That's where the stuff came from. So when they're looking at all these other places and pointing and saying, "Oh, this and where did this?" We have met the enemy, and he is us. It was in the calls coming from inside the house, Michigan. It's coming from inside the house. It was you guys. So I think for everything that I'm hearing about the public defiance and the stance, and I think Harbaugh and those guys will stonewall. I think him and his staff will try to be as defiant as possible. But I think the smart people at Michigan, the smart higher ups there, are already on the back lines to the commissioner of the Big Ten and saying, "Hey, don't judge us so harshly." I mean, you have to remember during World War II, there were people in the Nazi parties and other people that were negotiating with the Allies against Hitler's wishes to try to, because they knew that the whole thing was coming down, and they didn't want to they didn't want to swing when the whole thing kind of came down. So don't think for a second there aren't people from Michigan that are talking to the Big Ten and saying, "Hey, man, we don't want to swing on this one. We don't want to get the death penalty. Harbaugh's not bigger than the program. Yes, we know he did wrong." So don't ever think that that's not happening, because that is 100% happening right now in real time. It's just a question of what stories getting out in the press, what's being put out there as the narrative, because Michigan has to be seen as fighting the good fight for this, because their fan base is insane and they're starved for a championship because they've been such losers for so long. They've been so beaten down that they realize that now this is it. That they realize that this is the last call. This is the end of the game. It's the last dance. This is the last time that they're probably going to be relevant in your lifetime. Anybody's lifetime that's listening, this is the last season that Michigan will be relevant as a football power. Because when this is done, they're going to be irrelevant. They're going to go back to 6-5 or 7-6, or maybe someday we make the Gator Bowl guys or whatever it is. So this is the last dance. And, whenever you've got somebody backed into a corner like this, and this is when they're the most desperate. This is when they're the most unpredictable. So just don't believe everything that you're reading, because not everybody at Michigan feels that way. Not everybody's crazy. Just the most vocal people on social media.
Yeah, I mean, just because, the president and, maybe Ward Manuel, the AD, who has an extremely frosty relationship with Jim Harbaugh, is kind of, showing a little bit of support. I mean, there are guys that are way above the food chain on those two guys that are on the board of trustees that don't like Harbaugh, and they don't want Michigan to get nuked and scholarship losses and games, eliminate, not games eliminated, excuse me, games deleted from the record book and that type of thing. So there is not alignment. When there's organizations like this, there is a lot of dissension. It is, and that's what's fascinating is, again, are there going to be people that are going to say, "Hey, it's great that you have that opinion, Mr. President and Mr. Athletic Director, but now the big boys get to sit down, the people on the board of trustees that really run the university, the money people." Because when the money people get embarrassed, that's when it changes. When the big donors, the big money guys get embarrassed, that's when it changes. Because guess what? They run the university. They say, "Hey, we're not going to give you any more money as long as this is going on. We're embarrassed. We don't like to wear. We can't wear our Michigan stuff anymore. We're a joke. And it's because you guys bungled this thing." Jeff Price, appreciate the 5. Again, rewatching Michigan records replay. Michigan knew it was coming all day. Again, that's what keeps coming out is like that Nebraska clip where Aiden Hutchinson is looking at the sideline, and all of a sudden, the two defensive ends don't rush at all. They're playing Nebraska. Nebraska calls a screen pass, and magically nobody rushes. So once the perfect defense against the screen, don't rush, just stand there. And then, because the offensive line is taught to block for two seconds, 1,001, 1,002. Then they release, and then they let the pass rushers go. They run up the field. Then you throw it over their head. Running back, you got the wall of O linemen kind of leading the charge. That's how you run a screen. So when nobody rushes, then you can't run it. And they defended it literally perfectly. It was like they had the signs. So another 5 from Jeff Hiddle. Appreciate you, my man. Thank you so much. Appreciate your support of the program. If you have a question, toss that on there. Devjak 8, appreciate you for the 5. Has anybody filed a Freedom of Information Act request? I would bet my life that a lot of these have been filed, and they probably aren't getting answered with the NCAA or with Michigan. If not, does it not apply for something? Well, here's the thing. Freedom of Information Acts are funny things because, you can send it in, but are they ever going to actually respond to it? Or, I mean, they're not usually, unless there's something that they want to get out for some reason, they take their sweet time responding. If it's something where they're trying to squash something or they're trying to hurt somebody, they'll put it out in like a day. Otherwise, they'll never answer it. They might say, "Oh, we'll get around to it when we get around to it," or whatever. So with stuff like this, they're not going to release anything. I would bet my life that these investigative guys, Thamel and the guys that work for ESPN, for Fox Sports, for Outkick, all these guys that are digging around, that they've done that, and Michigan they get the request, they confirm they get the request, and then they just kind of sit on their hands because to go get that information is a lot of work. You got to go through emails, you got to go through because you'll request like any email or any type of electronic communication, text messages, whatever. From Connor Stallions, from Jim Harbaugh, from anybody in the organization that using the word Connor or Stallion. They'll have some big broad form thing. And, to go pull all of that takes a long time, So unless it's going to be really beneficial to the university, they're not going to do that. But what are your thoughts on that, Nevada?
Yeah, that stuff just takes years. You see it at all levels of government. You see it all levels of administration. And, as you said, I'll bet you an average college probably gets 5 to 10 Freedom of Information Act requests a day. They're constantly getting it for every possible thing. So I wouldn't hold her. I think ultimately that stuff is going to be completely illuminating, and I absolutely cannot wait for the day until that stuff comes out because it's going to be great. It's going to. Michigan didn't exactly cover their tracks and this stuff, so it's going to be delicious. But you don't hold your breath on that because it's going to be a while.
Yeah, and again, when it's something that isn't going to be beneficial, like if Michigan had information that Connor Stallions was actually a lone wolf and actually did everything on his own, which he clearly never was, then yeah, they'd release that like tonight. If there was a bunch of circumstantial evidence that if they put it out, it would throw a big giant thing of water on the flame. They do that, but that's not the case here. The case is actually like everything that I think that gets out is going to be more incendiary. Just to see how deep it really was, to see how much planning there was done going forward, like what tickets were bought for games going forward. What was I know there's this dumb manifesto thing, but was there any text messages between coaches? And I'm not thinking Jim Harbaugh would be involved, but I'd say like Jay Harbaugh might have been texting him saying, "Yeah, man, this is great. Keep doing your thing. This is awesome." Because head coaches are usually really busy, so you're not going to be chopping it up with the head coach about, "Hey, coach, I'm going to go watch the Western Michigan versus Michigan State game tonight. Is that cool?" But he might tell Jay Harbaugh that, or he might tell one of the younger GAs or coaches or position coaches that, because those guys have a lot more time. Like when you're a head coach, man, you got to do the recruiting. You got to go do all these banquets, these circuits. You got to go do media all the time. So you're not in the mix on some of the minutia like that. Well, it was good though. We can wrap this thing up, Nevada. What are your final thoughts? This is it's gonna be an interesting week for the old Bucks.
Yeah, no. But look, I wish I could sit here and say that this game's going to be some classic game against Michigan State. Yeah, it's not going to be a classic. It's going to be fun though. It's going to be a fun game. It's going to be, so I look. The season's 75% over, man. So I'm
No.
not going to waste a minute of not watching anything. But look, this Michigan stuff for me is must see TV. I think every day is going to bring new, new information and new reveals, and watching the Michigan fans just desperately flail around trying to find a life raft. First it was we found a loophole in the law. Then it was, Ryan Day's brother did it. Then it was, well, everybody does it. Now it's, we have the information that the next guy got. I mean, it's just so fun to watch them kind of, flail looking for some sort of hope. Because I know, when you don't have hope, it's hard. But man, it's kind of a hopeless situation right now. For Michigan fans, I think it's going to be hard. And part of me almost, back. I was thinking about a question you asked earlier about, do I want Harbaugh coaching? I almost do want Harbaugh coaching because I want to beat him upright with him
Yeah.
coaching. And also, and I'm just going to be honest. I like to be honest with the audience. I'm going to be honest with. Also, if he is coaching, then I think it gives the position for possible vacation of this or reversal of this if that temporary restraining order comes, because you have to be under TRO for him to be coaching, because I could see that coming off after that game, and maybe they have to forfeit that game, or maybe they unwind that game, or maybe that game's looked at differently by the playoff committee, considering the fact that they're using a coach that was under suspension. So I think it kind of gives us multiple outs on that. So regardless of whatever happens here the next few weeks, I'm going to be happy, and I think it's going to be best for Ohio State, and eventually Michigan will get their medicine. It will happen. Nothing that happens in the next 2 weeks is going to be enough, because it's not the end. It's top of the first inning. So for Michigan fans, buckle up, man. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
I totally agree. It's gonna be fun. Like I said, every day. I mean, we're enjoying it and they're sweating it out. So, that being said, as always, we appreciate you guys. We're gonna lock this thing down. Thank you guys for kicking it with us tonight. We'll be back again tomorrow. Again, it's nonstop here on BuckeyesGroup.com. I'm about to jump on the message board for the night. Watch some Monday Night Football. I hope you guys enjoyed the content. If you did, leave us a like. We got a couple hundred likes. There's about 1,500 of you in here, so come on in. Hit that like button. Those are huge for us, and we always appreciate you guys doing that. But with that being said, I want to hear your predictions. When is the justice going to be served? Because it is coming. I think it's the walls are closing in on Michigan, and I absolutely love it. It's going to be fun. And also, shout out where you guys are watching from. A lot of you guys in here. I love seeing where you guys are at. A lot of guys in West Virginia, Southern Ohio. Shout out Portsmouth. Shout out Chesapeake. Shout out Canton. I saw some Florida, Texas, Georgia. You guys are all over the place. Appreciate all you, California. As always, you guys are the absolute best. So thank you guys for being regulars on here and enjoying our content. We always love kicking it with you and seeing some of the great correspondence that you guys bring us. Thank you all for the super chats. Again, those are huge for us. Those help the channel tremendously. So we're very appreciative. Thank you guys. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your night. Talk to you guys tomorrow. Thank you, Buckeye Nation, and thank you, Scoop family. Go Bucks.